Dispatch, we have an active assault. Suspect is female, pregnant, and attacking the victim with a kitchen knife. The police radio crackled through the lobby and the desk sergeant frozen. He looked at the radio then looked slowly at me. I was the suspect. I fit the description. But I wasn't at the scene holding a knife. I was sitting right in front of him, sipping a lukewarm coffee, watching a live video feed of my sister screaming at an empty room. I held up my phone so he could see her fake tears in real time. Officer, I said. I think we have a problem. Before I tell you what happened when the police arrived at my house to find the suspect sipping coffee across town, drop a comment. Have you ever had a family member lie about you to cover their own tracks? Tell me where you're watching from. To understand why I was sitting in a police station instead of my own living room, you have to go back 4 hours. To the cake. It was a $450 custom creation, layered with raspberry filling and wrapped in edible gold leaf. A ridiculous extravagance I hadn't even wanted, but my mother, Karen, insisted was necessary for appearances. My sister, Clara, didn't just ruin it. She assassinated it. She stood in the middle of the rented restaurant hall, a serrated knife in her hand, breathing hard. The cake was a ruin of smashed fondant and cream on the floor. Guests were frozen, phones raised, recording the spectacle. Clara wasn't looking at the mess. She was looking at me, her eyes wide and frantic, screaming that I had stolen her life, her luck, her future. You take everything, she shrieked, lunging toward me. I stumbled back, my hands instinctively covering my stomach. But before I could move further, a hand clamped onto my bicep. It wasn't to pull me to safety. It was to hold me in place. Calm down, Elle, my mother hissed in my ear, her grip bruisingly tight. Don't make a scene. Your sister is having a moment. She was holding me. She was physically restraining the pregnant woman while the woman with the knife advanced. I looked at my husband, Justin. He was standing 3 feet away. He didn't step in front of me. He didn't grab the knife. He just stood there, looking pale and sweaty, watching Clara with a strange, terrified intensity. In that moment, the fear vanished, replaced by a cold, familiar clarity. My name is Elle. I am 29 years old, and for the last 5 years, I have worked as a forensic accountant. I don't look at people and see emotions, I see ledgers. I see deficits. And looking at my family in that wrecked room, the math finally added up. This wasn't a mental breakdown. It was a transaction. I looked at Clara's eyes. They weren't just angry, they were desperate. The kind of desperation I saw in executives who had embezzled company funds and knew the audit was coming. Then I looked at Justin. He wasn't looking at Clara. He was looking at her purse, which was sitting on the table behind me. 2 days ago, I had found a document in Justin's briefcase. It was an application for a home equity line of credit on our house. $120,000 of equity. It was filled out, but the signature line for co-owner remained blank. He needed my signature. I had pretended not to see it, waiting for him to ask. He never did. Now, watching Clara brandish a knife while my mother pinned my arms, the scheme clicked into place. They didn't want to hurt the baby. They wanted me committed. If I was declared unstable, say if I attacked my sister in a hormonal rage, Justin could petition for emergency power of attorney. He could sign the loan. He could drain the equity to pay off whatever debt Clara had dragged him into. They weren't trying to kill me. They were trying to liquidate me. Let go of me, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it was lethal. My mother blinked, surprised by the tone, and loosened her grip. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I stepped back, smoothing my dress over my belly. I looked at Justin, then at Clara. They were waiting for me to snap, to fight back, to give them the show they needed for the police report they were already planning to file. I decided to give them a different show entirely. We drove back to the house in a suffocating silence. Justin drove, knuckles white on the wheel. My mother sat in the back with Clara, cooing at her like she was a wounded animal, not the person who had just committed assault with a dessert utensil. They thought they were escorting me to my execution. They thought I was cowed, broken, ready to be managed. They were wrong. I was just waiting for the venue change. When we walked into the living room, the ambush began in earnest. Clara threw herself onto my sofa, sobbing without tears. I don't feel safe, she wailed, looking pointedly at my stomach. She's unstable, Mom. Did you see her eyes? She wanted to hurt me. I know, honey, Karen soothed, rubbing Clara's back. Then she turned her gaze on me. It was the look a farmer gives a lame horse before raising the rifle. Pity mixed with utility. "Oh, we need to talk about your mental state. Justin tells me you've been erratic lately. Forgetting things. Mood swings." I looked at Justin. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He was staring at the floor, playing with his wedding ring. He was the linchpin. If he supported their story, the doctors would listen. "I think," my mother continued, her voice dripping with fake concern, "that for the safety of the baby, we need to get you some help. A 72-hour observation. Just to be safe." There was the 5150 hold. In psychology, there is a concept called the Karpman drama triangle. It requires 3 roles to function: the persecutor, the rescuer, and the victim. Clara was the persecutor, attacking me to provoke a reaction. My mother was the fake rescuer, stepping in to save the family from my madness. They needed me to play the victim. They needed me to scream, to deny, to fight back. If I fought, I looked hysterical. If I looked hysterical, the paramedics would sedate me. The only way to win the game was to refuse to play. I let my shoulders slump. I forced my breathing to hitch, shallow and fast. I widened my eyes, mimicking the panic attacks I used to have as a child. I can't breathe," I stammered, backing away. I need to go." "Go." Justin looked up, alarmed. "Go where?" "I don't know," I gasped, grabbing my car keys from the hook. "I just need air. I need to pack a bag. I'm going to stay at a hotel. Just for tonight." My mother exchanged a look with Clara. This wasn't their plan, but it worked for them. If I left voluntarily, they had the house. They had access to my files, my devices, my life. They nodded. "Maybe that's best," Karen said. "Go pack a bag, Elle. We'll stay here with Justin." I ran to the nursery. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I moved with surgical precision. I grabbed a duffel bag and threw in random clothes to make it look convincing. Then I reached into the back of the closet and pulled out my old smartphone. A cracked iPhone I kept as a backup. It was fully charged. I had prepped it weeks ago for a different investigation, but it would serve a new purpose today. I opened the streaming app, killed the screen brightness, and set it to audio co-video trigger. I walked over to the vintage lamp on the dresser, a ceramic owl with a hollow base. I tilted it back and slid the phone inside. The camera lens lined up perfectly with a small chip in the ceramic, giving it a wide-angle view of the entire room. I zipped the bag. I walked back out to the living room. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice trembling just enough. "Please, just don't follow me." "We won't," Clara said, a smirk touching her lips. She thought she had won. He thought I was fleeing the battlefield. I walked out the front door, got into my car, and drove away. I didn't go to a hotel. I drove 3 miles down the road, parked in a side street, and pulled up the GPS tracker on my dashboard. I watched the dot representing my car move away from the house, establishing my departure. Then I turned the car toward the police station. They wanted a crazy woman? I was about to give them a performance that would bring the house down. From the safety of the police station lobby, I watched my family disintegrate in high definition. On the small screen of my phone, the nursery looked like a crime scene before a crime had even been committed. My mother and Clara weren't mourning the breakdown of their pregnant relative. They were tearing the room apart. Drawers were yanked out, dumping neatly folded onesies onto the floor. The crib mattress was overturned. They weren't looking for a weapon. They were looking for a red folder. "It has to be here," Clara snarled, throwing a box of diapers across the room. "She keeps all the financial records in here." "Check the closet again," my mother commanded, her voice tight. "If we don't find those Attck papers, we can't get the notary to sign off." I took a sip of my coffee. The liquid was cold now, but the heat in my chest was rising. They were ransacking my unborn child's room for cash. Then Justin moved. He had been standing by the door, useless as always, until his phone buzzed. He pulled it out and the camera caught the screen perfectly. I zoomed in. It wasn't a text from a friend. It was a notification from a sports betting app, followed by a text from an unsaved number. "Payment due by midnight. Don't make us come to the house." The color drained from his face. He looked at Clara. "We don't have time," he said, his voice cracking. "I need that money tonight, Clara. If she doesn't sign, I'm dead." This was the missing variable. Justin wasn't just a weak husband, he was a desperate debtor. He needed Clara's plan to work because he had gambled away our safety net. Clara stopped trashing the room. She looked at Justin, then at the clock. Fine, she said. We go with option B. We don't wait for the doctors. We force the issue. She walked over to the changing table where I had left a small paring knife I used to cut tags off new clothes. He picked it up. Mom, get the first aid kit ready, Clara said calmly. Clara, what are you doing? Justin asked, but he didn't move to stop her. Making sure she goes away for a long time, Clara whispered. She raised the knife and, with a jagged, deliberate motion, sliced a 3-inch gash into her own left forearm. Blood welled up instantly, dripping onto the white carpet. My mother gasped, but she didn't scream. She grabbed a towel to stem the flow, her face set in grim determination. Clara pulled out her phone. She didn't dial a doctor. She dialed 911. Showtime, she hissed at Justin. Look scared. Then she hit send. Her face transformed instantly from calculating predator to terrified victim. Help me, she screamed into the phone, tears magically appearing in her voice. My sister. She has a knife. She's cutting me. She's trying to kill the baby. Send help now. Justin backed into the corner, playing his part, the silent witness to a massacre that wasn't happening. I sat in the lobby 5 miles away watching the performance of a lifetime. My heart hammered against my ribs, not from fear but from the adrenaline of the kill. I stood up. I walked over to the high counter where the desk sergeant was filing paperwork. I held my phone against my chest, the screen still glowing with the live feed of my sister's lies. The radio on his shoulder crackled. Dispatch to all units. Domestic assault in progress. 24 Elm Street. Victim reports suspect is active with a knife. The sergeant grabbed his radio. Copy that. Units en route. I cleared my throat. Excuse me, Sergeant? He looked down at me, annoyed. Ma'am, I'm busy. Unless it's an emergency. I think you're dispatching units to my house, I said, placing my driver's license on the counter. My name is Elle. And as you can see, I'm right here. The squad car ride back to my house was surreal. I wasn't in the back. I was in the passenger seat, sitting next to Sergeant Miller, who had decided to handle this personally. He wasn't happy. Police officers hate being used as props in domestic disputes, but they hate being lied to even more. If that cut on her arm is self-inflicted, Miller said, turning onto my street, she's looking at a felony. Filing a false report. Fabricating physical evidence. And if she tries to pin it on you, perjury. It is, I said, staring out the window. She sliced herself right after she called you. We pulled up to the house. There were already 2 patrol cars in the driveway, lights flashing, bathing the neighborhood in strobing red and blue. My neighbors were on their porches watching. Good. Let them see. Miller got out, hand on his holster, and signaled the other officers. Breach, he said into his radio. Suspect is not on premises. Proceed with caution. I got out and followed them up the walkway, staying behind the line of uniforms. The front door burst open. I didn't see it, but I heard the kick. Then the shouting. Police. Show me your hands. I walked through the open door just in time to see the tableau. Clara was on the floor, clutching a bloody towel to her arm, looking up with wide, terrified eyes. She had been ready to perform for a single officer who would take her statement and put out an all-points bulletin on me. Instead, she was staring down the barrels of 3 service weapons. Where is she? Clara screamed, pointing at the back door. She ran out the back. She tried to kill me. Ma'am, put your hands where we can see them, an officer shouted. She's crazy, my mother yelled, standing over Clara, pointing a shaking finger at the empty air. She just snapped. You have to find her before she hurts someone else. Sergeant Miller stepped into the room. The other officers lowered their weapons slightly, deferring to him. He looked at Clara, then at the blood on the carpet. Then he looked at me standing in the doorway behind him. "We found her," Miller said dryly. Clara looked past him. She saw me. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. It was the look of a magician whose trapdoor had failed to open. Pure, unadulterated panic. Clara stammered. "How?" "She's been at the 12th precinct for the last hour," Miller said, his voice hard. "Drinking coffee. Which means unless she can teleport, she didn't give you that cut." The silence in the room was absolute. My mother looked from Clara to me, her mind racing, trying to find a new angle, a new lie. Then she did what survivors always do. She threw the dead weight overboard. I told her to stop. Karen shrieked, backing away from Clara as if she were radioactive. "I didn't know she called 911. She's unstable." I tried to take the knife away. Clara's head whipped around, betrayal written in every line of her face. "Mom, don't you look at me," Karen yelled, tears springing to her eyes. "You need help, Clara. I've been saying it for years." It was magnificent. The rat eating its own tail. "Clara Vance," Miller said, snapping on his cuffs. "You're under arrest for filing a false police report and attempted swatting." Clara broke down, sobbing. "She tricked me. Justin, tell them." Justin stood in the doorway with a glass of water, watching her get cuffed. Then he looked at me. "I didn't see anything," he said calmly. "I was in the bathroom." Clara screamed as they dragged her out, accusing him of needing the money too. Justin said nothing. The officers escorted Clara and Karen away. Miller asked for Justin's statement. I agreed. Justin hugged me afterward, whispering how relieved he was that I was safe. I let him. Because the trap wasn't finished. When the patrol cars disappeared, I sent the last officer away and locked the door. Justin paced, pretending to process what happened, then pulled me close and offered tea. I closed my eyes on the couch and listened. Footsteps. The kettle. Then the tap of a screen. Through the kitchen opening, I saw him leaning over the iPad I had left out. His phone lit up with a deadline reminder. 15 minutes. He opened the banking app and tried a PIN. Wrong. Then he glanced at the calendar. October 14th. He typed it in. Access granted. He went straight to the HELIC. $120,000 available. He wired it to an offshore crypto account. A two-factor prompt appeared. He panicked. Then my synced messages popped up on the iPad. The security code. He entered it. Transfer successful. He smiled. I sat up. When he returned with tea, acting gentle and relieved, I took a sip and set the mug down. Did you enjoy the honey pot? I asked. He froze. The transfer, I said. 120,000. Did it go smoothly? His face drained. I'm a forensic accountant, I continued. Did you think I wouldn't notice? He stammered about protecting us. No, I said. He sent it offshore. And that success screen? It flagged the transfer. I showed him my phone. Fraud alert, assets frozen. I flagged that account weeks ago. Anything over 5,000 reroutes to escrow and logs the device. He collapsed. You just committed federal wire fraud using my credentials, I said. That's a felony. He tried to claim he did it for me. Don't. I tossed an envelope onto his lap. Divorce papers. Full custody. The house. You leave with your car and your debt. He begged. Sign and go tonight, I said, and I won't send the logs to the DA. Refuse and you'll meet your child through glass. He signed. After he left, I locked the door, revoked his access from the smart home app, and watched his status flip to access denied. The house went quiet. Clean quiet. I poured his tea down the sink, washed the mug, and went into the nursery. I stopped the burner phone recording and backed it up 3 times. I put the stuffed bear back in the crib. Then I sat in the rocking chair, one hand on my belly. It's over, I whispered. The front door on the monitor stayed locked. For the first time I knew exactly who was outside. And they couldn't get back in.